I'm looking for Silent Hill. Is this the right way?
With the remake of Silent Hill 2 coming out, I wanted to revisit the original that I played once before, some 20 years ago. I remember this game really sticking to me the last time I played it, but now, playing it 20 years later, I've gained a much deeper appreciation for it. Sure, I loved it back then because I found it terrifying, the monsters were disturbing, the atmosphere was suffocating, and Pyramid Head, constantly lurking, felt like pure dread. But that's as far as my younger self took it. Now, playing it in 2024, I realized I missed the most important aspect of Silent Hill 2, the psychological narrative. I always thought it was a great game, but after this playthrough, I can confidently say it's nothing short of a masterpiece. It's truly one of a kind. Before we dive into my experience though, I want to warn you, this video contains spoilers. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this video.
I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real.
Playing this game in 2024 was a bit of a challenge. The first time I heard the characters speak, I was instantly reminded of the iconic voice acting from Resident Evil 1.
She's supposed to be going over the first floor, Barry?
Yeah, you're right. But just take a look at this.
Are you afraid? I'm sorry.
It took me a while to adjust to this, and once I got used to what feels like nails on a chalkboard, I quickly noticed the gameplay. And even by 2001 standards, it's, well, not great. Games like Resident Evil 2, which came out 3 years earlier, had much smoother mechanics, and Devil May Cry, which came out the same year as Silent Hill 2, blew it out of the water in terms of gameplay, graphics, and voice acting.
Sword. Time to go to work, guys.
Now, you're probably wondering, why is this guy complaining? I'm not, just hear me out. Even with its flaws, Silent Hill 2 is still a masterpiece. The clunky gameplay has a purpose. Konami intentionally designed it this way to make us feel vulnerable. They wanted an everyday man thrown into this nightmare, not a one-man army. Sure, they could have done it better, but to me the lackluster gameplay didn't matter. Let me explain. First, we need to make one thing clear. Silent Hill 2 is not a survival horror game. It is a psychological horror game. So gameplay is not front and center. What it lacks in gameplay, it more than makes up in horror. But even that is not its biggest strength. It's how well it blends horror into its psychological narrative. This game does not rely on jump scares.
Hi!
Oh, I'm sorry.
Once in Silent Hill, you will see the oppressive atmosphere, the fog-filled streets, the decaying buildings, the dark claustrophobic hallways, the small disturbing rooms. Everything in Silent Hill is devoid of hope. No ray of sunlight. All of this creates a constant sense of dread and anxiety. This game truly makes you feel alone. Alone in your head. And it never lets up. In other games, there's a safe place. A place you can let your guard down, relax and take a breather. Just like the save room in Resident Evil. When you enter, you hear that familiar music playing. You feel safe because you know all of the zombies and chaos of the outside world cannot reach you. Silent Hill 2, however, does not offer you that comfort. Even though you never encounter enemies in a save area, you will not feel that sense of relief because you are still in that nightmare. You are still in that dark, gloomy room. You are still in Silent Hill. If I had to choose between being thrown into Raccoon City or Silent Hill, I would definitely choose Raccoon City. I'll take my chances with Mr. X. I'll make a run for it from one save room to the next. But Silent Hill? No matter where you go, you are still stuck in a town where your greatest fear manifests itself into physical form. In Silent Hill, you live your greatest trauma again and again, but the game tells you this story in a subtle way. While meeting characters, you will understand that each character is seeing something that you can't see. They are experiencing their own nightmare. This is why they act in ways we don't understand. It's because they see things we can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been bad. Please don't.
It's a complicated story told in a brilliant way. Simple stories are popular because they're effective. They're memorable, easy to follow, and resonate with a wide audience. Take Link's quest to save Princess Zelda, for example. It's a classic, simple story, but it works so well. It follows the timeless hero's journey, starting from the bottom and rising to the top. This formula is so successful because it's straightforward and emotionally satisfying. As for complicated stories, they run the risk of confusing the audience. They often rely on exposition dumps that feel clunky and aren't exactly thrilling to watch.
As I was saying, she stumbled upon a solution whereby nearly 99% of all test subjects accepted the program as long as they were given a choice, even if they were only aware of the choice at a near unconscious level. While this answer functioned, it was obviously fundamentally flawed, thus creating the otherwise contradictory systemic anomaly that, if left unchecked, might threaten the system itself.
Can we go back to the pew-pew part?
No.
There we go. But Silent Hill 2 pulls off something incredible. It tells a deep and complicated story without becoming convoluted or hard to understand. That's a difficult balance to strike. Yet, Silent Hill 2 does it masterfully. The story begins simply enough. James, our protagonist, receives a letter from his deceased wife, Mary, saying she's waiting for him in Silent Hill. So naturally, James sets out to find her. Sounds straightforward, right? You might even think it's a typical hero's journey, like a noble quest to save the princess. But that's only the surface. As you dig deeper, it quickly becomes clear that James is no hero. He didn't embark on this journey out of bravery or selflessness. His call to adventure isn't driven by noble intentions. It's rooted in guilt and self-deception. And that's what makes this story so unique. What starts as a simple quest gradually unravels into something much darker and more complex. Yet it never loses the audience in its depth. But you might think, okay, sure, he feels guilty about something, but isn't this still about a husband who loves his wife and wants to save her? Well, does he really love her? Does he even want to save her? These are the questions that will start running through your mind the more you get to know James. At first, he seems like an innocent man who happened to walk into a nightmare. But as you progress, Silent Hill begins peeling away layer after layer, revealing that James isn't just some random innocent person. He is deeply flawed and not so innocent. On the surface, he looks fine. He's calm, able to carry on normal conversations, and seems like the most stable person compared to the other characters you meet. But as you delve deeper, you realize that James isn't so different from them. His mind is foggy, his perception is distorted, and he is trapped in a very dark place, unable to escape. He is on the brink of complete madness. This descent into madness is brilliantly shown through the gameplay itself. James just keeps going down, stairs that seem to stretch on forever, elevators that feel like descending into bottomless depths. Each descent fills you with growing sense of dread. Every time James jumps into another hole, you know he's descending deeper into his own psyche, into something buried far beneath the surface. Guilt, trauma, something festering deep inside of him. And eventually it all becomes clear. We learn that Mary, James's wife, suffered from an illness that left her bedridden. Her body and appearance changed beyond recognition. For 3 long years, James was trapped in what felt like a nightmare, caring for her while feeling powerless to escape the situation. And finally, he became her executioner, ending her life. But he didn't do it out of mercy to end her suffering. He did it to end his suffering. And in doing so, he only condemned himself to another nightmare. Silent Hill doesn't just throw random monsters at you, it manifests your deepest fears into physical forms. Take the twisted creatures that vomit at you, for example. They resemble sick, diseased people struggling to survive. They are a direct reflection of James's memories of his wife during her illness. As for the nurses that attack you, they represent the nurses who frequently visited Mary to check up on her while she was bedridden, constantly reminding James of those painful 3 years he spent watching her suffer. And then there's Pyramid Head. He's not like the tyrant or nemesis from Resident Evil, mindlessly pursuing you. He is much more than that. Pyramid Head is James. He is a manifestation of James's guilt, a relentless reminder of the choice he made to become an executioner. And just like James, Pyramid Head drags his massive blade exactly how James has been dragging his guilt, trauma, and emotional baggage wherever he goes. At one point, James is even given the same blade, cementing that connection. And what about the final boss? How does Silent Hill manifest James's worst nightmare? It's this. His sick wife suffering in bed. Once again, James is forced to execute her, just as he did before.
James. James. James.
Silent Hill forces him to relive his darkest trauma, confronting everything he's tried so hard to bury and forget. And depending on the ending, James either survives this nightmare or he completely succumbs to it. After finishing this game, I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. It was such an intense experience. Very few games have made me feel the way Silent Hill 2 did. The emotional impact of the story was overwhelming, but as much as I appreciated and admired it, I didn't feel ready to jump back in for another playthrough. Not because there's anything wrong with the game, far from it, but because I needed a breather. I needed something lighter, something more cheerful. Look at these enemies. They're like marshmallows. I wonder if I have enough ingredients. It doesn't matter. All is well in this world. But seriously, me not wanting to immediately go for a second playthrough is a testament to just how powerful and unique Silent Hill 2 is. It's a game that stays with you long after the credits roll. It doesn't just entertain, it challenges you, making you confront uncomfortable emotions and thoughts. It dares you to keep going to find the answers while pushing every nerve to prevent you from wanting to do just that. It's not an easy experience, and that's part of its brilliance. Few games can tell a story as psychologically deep while still remaining so haunting and terrifying.
You see it too. For me, it's always like this.
I still didn't start playing the remake yet. I didn't see any trailers, news, or reviews. I wanted to experience it without being influenced by any reviews or opinions. But I really hope the remake captures the lightning in a bottle that the original was able to capture. For now, tell me what you thought of the original. Did it hit you the same way it hit me? Let me know, and please like and subscribe, and until next time.